think we need to keep it moving because we haven't even got to the Super Smash yet.
No, it's just some Super Smash.
Wellington Blaze, obviously champions, and Central District Stags champions. Let's start with the Wellington Blaze. As I said, Amelia Kerr, legendary stuff. And a key and interesting, maybe a bit dramatic point about Amelia Kerr, although I do want to highlight that there's a few other players with there in Amelia Kerr. So Amelia Kerr and Jess Kerr, they've played at least 7 games in the last 8 Super Smash seasons, in which the Wellington Blaze have won 6 of those championships. Sophie Devine has played at least 7 games just twice. Now, I haven't done the numbers, but I would suggest Jess McFadyen, Rebecca Burns, maybe Caitlin King, they're in the same ballpark. Like Jess McFadyen and Lee Kasprick more recently, Zara Jetley more recently, they're playing a lot of games in this dynasty. And when you say Wellington Blaze Dynasty, I think a lot of people are thinking Sophie Devine. Sophie Devine has been fantastic. She is one of the most, if not the most dominant Super Smash player ever because she hits centuries. Like Amelia Kerr hasn't hit centuries in this period. She has 3, maybe 4 times as many 50s as Sophie Devine, but she doesn't have the centuries. But Amelia Kerr's played twice as many games as Sophie Devine. Amelia Kerr's played 81 games, Jess Kerr's played 79 games, Sophie Devine's played 42 games. So if we're talking about a Wellington Blaze team that is, and I was thinking about updating this because Auckland City, I did maybe a little, what's it called, the old Freudian slip, whatever. I did reference Auckland FC as Auckland City just earlier, but Auckland City, they did win the National League, I think, recently, end of last year?
Yeah.
Or the Chatham Cup?
They made the Chatham Cup final, they won the National League final.
Yeah, so that's put them back in the Dynasty stakes.
Yeah.
Because you've got the old Christian Crusaders from Christchurch. They love a dynasty as well. They might love a religious dynasty as well. But along with the Wellington Blaze, like they're the dynastic teams of Aotearoa sport. And I do want to highlight Auckland City because they did bounce back. Like they were out of the mix for a little bit, but they did add another championship to their resume. So shout out to them. But Wellington Blaze have a dynasty, the best dynasty in New Zealand sport. 6 Super Smash championships in the last 8 seasons. And Amelia Kerr's played twice as many games as Sophie Devine. So going back to the Amelia Kerr greatness angle, who's more influential in the Wellington Blaze dynasty? Now, Sophie Devine was the leader. Amelia Kerr's following her lead for most of those championships. But at this point, Amelia Kerr has won a lot of Super Smash championships. She's played twice as many games as Sophie Devine. And she's gone back to back in the last 2 years. Well, in this back-to-back Wellington Blaze championship period, well, we've got Amelia Kerr playing 10 games, then 12 games. We've got Amelia Kerr scoring 437 runs, then 441 runs. We've got Amelia Kerr taking 20 wickets, then 15 wickets. Meanwhile, Sophie Devine scored 16 runs, then 38 runs. She took 2 wickets, then she took 8 wickets. So the Wellington Blaze have gone back to back with Super Smash championships without much contribution from Sophie Devine. To me, that only elevates what Amelia Kerr is doing. Because now she's the captain, now she's the leader, and she is dragging the Wellington Blaze to continue this dynasty. Without the player, many people would point to and saying she is responsible for the dynasty. Now it's Amelia Kerr. So shout out to Amelia Kerr, shout out to the Wellington Blaze. You also had fantastic seasons from Jess Kerr. Amelia Kerr, Jess Kerr, Rebecca Burns all hit 350s. This was Jess Kerr scored 300 runs, and this is her first Super Smash scoring over 100 runs. Rebecca Burns, this is her second Super Smash scoring over 200 runs, but her first Super Smash with more than 150 plus score. She scored 3. So Jess Kerr and Rebecca Burns with the bat outplayed all their previous Super Smash seasons. Jess Kerr was the second leading wicket taker, so she's always fantastic with the ball. Wellington Blaze were also without Lee Kasprick. She only played 2, maybe 3 games. Again, another player you think of when you're thinking Wellington Blaze Dynasty. Zara Jetley, consistently one of the best Super Smash spinners of the last 5 years. She didn't play finals weekend. Didn't play Saturday, didn't play Sunday. Jess McFadden, best wicketkeeper in New Zealand. I think that is undeniable at this point. And then Wellington Blaze also have this import angle as well, because they had Elise Perry, Maitland Brown, Hannah Darlington, Aussie imports, all 3. I think they've previously, they had Grace Harris, I think, and Charlie Knott. So the Wellington Blaze always have high quality imports. I don't think any of them are as good as Chamari Atapatu though. So you could point at the Wellington Blaze and say, well, they get, Elise Perry. She came in. Oh my, Wellington Blaze, they got Maitland Brown and Hannah Darlington. What's doing? They get the best imports. That's why they win. Chamari Atapatu, to me, is the best import. Maybe doesn't impact winning. Holly Armitage, statistically, she has a case as the best import, but the Central Hinds sucked. Armitage is an English international. In the Blaze, Atapatu and Armitage, they played almost full seasons for their teams. The Wellington Blaze, their imports, they're always short term. Elise Perry, couple games. Maitland Brown and Hannah Darlington, couple games at the end of the season. And they're all okay, so Lee Kasprick's out injured, then you get Maitland Brown. Sophie Devine's out for personal reasons, Darlington comes in. It's not easy to integrate those players for a couple of games. But that's the environment that Amelia Kerr leads. Not only is she the best batter, the best bowler, the best fielder, the best captain, you could make a case that she's Jess Kerr, Rebecca Burns, they've always been pretty good, but Amelia Kerr's environment, the Wellington Blaze environment, ensures that Maitland Brown, Darlington and Perry settle straight in. That they perform for the couple of games they're playing, but at the same time, that environment brings the best out of Nicole Baird, really solid lefty. It gets the best out of Sam McKinder, Natasha Kodai. I think it's Hannah Bryant. These players, Rachel Bryant, sorry. These players don't do anything with the bat or the ball. Nicole Baird does a lot with the ball, but earlier in the season, she wasn't bowling as much. But I'm looking at Sam McInder, Natasha Kodai, Rachel Bryant, youngsters like Kate Chandler and Hannah Francis, who played 2 games each before going to the Under-19 World Cup. In this Wellington Blaze team, you can be in the team, but you don't do anything. You do something because Sam McKinder took a bunch of catches. You still need to play your part and do your job, but you don't bat because you don't need a bat. There's other batters doing the job. You're not going to bowl. Natasha Kodai, to me, is one of the best young seamers in New Zealand. She bowled 3.4 overs. She played every game and didn't bowl much. That's the role the young players have to play for the Wellington Blaze. which could be very niggly. But they do their job. The same way the inputs do their job for 4 games. So to me, that is a credit to the Wellington Blaze environment. Then you've also got the fact that Lance Dry was their coach for a lot of their recent championships. He stopped being the coach just before the Super Smash. Then they get Jonathan Bassett-Graham. He comes in as coach, and they win the championship. So that means the Wellington Blaze have won back-to-back Super Smash championships with a different coach. Like, it just gets more and more impressive. It's kind of crazy. And to add to that, Otago had 2 wins over Wellington during the season. Both were by 7 wickets. One was in Wellington, one was in Dunedin. Yes. Wellington first, then Dunedin, both by 7 wickets. And the Wellington Blaze, they had to win both games over the weekend. They scored 133 for 6 and then rolled Northern Brave for 110. They only scored 104 for 8 in the final. And they restricted Otago to 96 for 9. So they didn't score enough runs, but it didn't matter because they have excellent bowlers, but in the field they have Amelia Kerr who has this presence. It's like there's a couple of observations about it. Like she was always high-fiving the bowler just to connect with them, make sure they're on the same wavelength, the same vibration. And then, okay, so Otago lose some early wickets, and Amelia Kerr hasn't even bowled yet. I'm scared of what's going to happen next. Because if Amelia Kerr hasn't even bowled and she's coming on to bowl, it's like anticipation. But then you also have the Blaze squeeze. They do the best of this. They're like, okay, a couple wickets fall, you're not getting out of that hole. Like the Blaze are tightening up. Fielders are on point. Like Caitlin King is patrolling the boundary to the extent where you're like, she's a specialist fielder in this team. Like they take that role so seriously, and it's led by Amelia Kerr and her aggressive, attacking, ruthless instincts. And I was even going deeper. I was like, so I've absorbed a bit of Ashes, women's Ashes coverage. And everything that England wants, everything that England lacks, the stuff they talk about they don't do well, the stuff they want to do better at, basically the stuff that Australia does, all that's encapsulated in Amelia Kerr. Like Amelia Kerr is more of an Australian type of cricketer than an English type of cricketer. And I think if the White Ferns, if we're moving into the Amelia Kerr era for the White Ferns, I think they can reclaim their status as one of the best women's teams in the world. Because it's the aggression, the ruthlessness, the athleticism, the skill, the winning instincts. Those are things that England lack when they're playing against Australia, not when they're playing against New Zealand, because they just beat up New Zealand, but hopefully that can change. But I also think it's a lot of attributes that the rest of the women's cricketing world also lacks. So I want to follow Amelia Ferns into the White Ferns. I want to follow her into this new era of the White Ferns. And everything I've talked about with the Wellington Blaze here, I think can be a successful recipe for the White Ferns moving forward. Central Stags, well, shout out to Canterbury. There's no dynasty there. Canterbury Kings. The opposite, grand final dynasty.
Yeah, there could have been.
They've lost 5 consecutive Super Smash finals. So if you're out there, pour some out for the Canterbury Kings, spark one up. And they lost again to the Central Stags. Central Stags, who I think they won in 2018, 2019. And when they won in 2018, 2019, can you guess their leading run scorer and leading wicket taker?
What's that? 6 years ago. Tom Bruce and Blair Signer.
Bang on.
Really?
Tom Bruce in 2018-19, 353 runs. 2024-25, 339 runs. Similar amount of runs. Blair Tickner, same amount of wickets. 16 wickets in each run. So those two dudes have led Central Stags to Super Smash Championships, and they deserve a shout out. Especially Blair Tickner, like, he's not opening the bowling. He was the last bowler used, and he went for like 4 RPO in the final. So that was good. We had a oh my God, Angus Shaw's opening the bowling by one commentator, and then the other commentator says Angus Shaw's opening the bowling in every game, and that's what he does. So he was pretty tidy. Obviously, Will Young's very good. Jack Boyle had a fantastic season. Dane Cleaver was impactful as well. Jaden Lennox, like Ajaz Patel didn't play in the Super Smash. Jaden Lennox got the job done as the lead spinner. But then Angus Shaw was only slightly worse than Jaden Lennox with the ball. But Angus Shaw also just whacked boundaries as an all-rounder. There's 3 dudes I want to zone in on behind Bruce and Tickner, though. Toby Finlay, William Clark, and Curtis Heafy. Toby Finlay, he got some tail-ender wickets, but they were big wickets. Toby Finlay dismissed Daryl Mitchell in the 17th over. Dismissed Henry Shipley in the 20th over. And Matt Henry in the 20th over. That restricted Canterbury to 135 for 8. Canterbury could have got 150. And Toby Finlay is a young seamer who folks probably don't know a lot about. Remember, the Super Smash started with me talking up 17-year-old Mason Clark from Otago. Jacob Duffy came back into the team. Mason Clark dropped out. So then I had to go like, okay, who's next? Who's the next up seamer? Folks know a lot about Jock McKenzie. Everyone knows Zach Fox. Everyone knows Will O'Rourke. But then Toby Finlay settles into the Central Stags first 11, and he's bowling heat. He's taken wickets with full pace. He's bowling wickets with bounces. He's bowling wickets with slower balls. He's just a very good young seamer who he played one Plunkett Shield game a few summers ago. Other than that, this is his first major dose of domestic cricket. So he was very impressive, let alone Will Clark and Curtis Heafy. We talked about this on Thursday in our bonus podcast. Wait, so Toby Finlay got better through the Super Smash. Got to say this. No wickets in his first 2 games, and then he took 2 wickets, 1 wicket, 2 wickets, 3 wickets. So as the Super Smash got more like worked towards a climax, Toby Finlay got better as a 21-year-old seamer. Same for Curtis Heafy. Last 5 games, he opened the batting with 10 runs at 111 strike rate. Then he opened the batting, scored 78 runs at a strike rate of 137. Curtis Heafy, good opening batter. But then Will Young comes back into the team. So Curtis Heafy, he goes down to 4. 12 not out at 67 strike rate, but that's when no other CD batter scored over 10 runs. When Kyle Jamieson and Matt Henry were ripping through CD before the rain came at Hagley Oval. So Curtis Heafy goes down to number 4, and he's their best batter in half an innings. Versus Auckland, he's batting 7 not out with a strike rate of 233, not out to win the game, or not out to set up the run chase. Batting 6 in the final, 13 not out, 150 strike rate to seal the win. Curtis Heafy has 3 not out scores in his last 3 games, batting in 3 different roles. As a 21-year-old, who also averages 50 in one-day cricket and 37.4 in first-class cricket. That seems pretty impressive. I've talked a lot more about Will Clark over the last summer and a bit. He finished 17 not out with a strike rate of 170, didn't bowl, but he is a very good all-rounder. And folks don't know about Will Clark. But this dude is producing at a high level for the CD Stags. He is 23 years old, first class batting average 42, one-day batting average 39.7, T20s averaging 25 with a strike rate of 120, and he's averaging 35 or less in all three formats with the ball. You could make a case that William Clark is better than Jock McKenzie right now. You could make a case he's better than Muhammad Abbas. So don't overlook Will Clark when we're talking about Aotearoa's best young cricketers. And along with Curtis Heafy and Toby Finlay, they just won a Super Smash championship. But Tom Bruce and Blair Tickner won another one. So shout out to them.